Hey everybody, Yeti here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a gander out of Villagers. This is a city builder, a medieval survival type city builder, very similar to Banished. Now, I know usually when I make these sort of videos, I usually have one particular comparison which I keep drawing references to throughout the video if you've seen the series before, but this one particular is very similar to Banished. It has its own quirks and its own charms, and it is definitely its own game, but just know that when you're playing this, or if you've played Banished at least, then you'll probably see a lot of inspirations maybe between the two games. But this is Villager. It's a medieval city builder, as I mentioned, developed by Bumblebee, a studio which is relatively unknown as far as my knowledge goes, at least. They have developed a few games in the past, including a tower defense game, as well as an open world exploration type game and a strategic game. So this definitely isn't the first rodeo as far as game development goes. So they have got a bit of experience under the belt, and you will notice that from the game, just from the general, the graphics and the general polish of the game, which hopefully you'll be able to see as we go on into the game. But this is their first city builder game, and I think they've done a good job, although, as I said, very similar to Banished in a lot of respects, but not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just more of an inspiration for them as opposed to a copy or anything. But anyway, this is Villages. It has a campaign and a free play. Now what I'm actually going to do is I wanted to sort of play this game for about 2 hours. This is what I've decided before I started playing it. I wanted to play it for about 2 hours and then see sort of how the game compared to other games in the same vein that I've played, and what I could get to expect from it. So I am at a stage now where I understand the basics of the game, I understand how it works, but there are still things that I don't understand yet that I haven't learned. So hopefully I'll leave some guys for some stuff for you guys to figure out for yourselves if you wanted to play the game. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start off by jumping into the campaign mission that I'm into, and then I'll show off what free play is like. So the campaign it's basically, this is what makes it stand out from Banished the most to me, is that obviously Banished, you load up your city, or you start a city, you load up your map, and then you build the city, and that is pretty much the extent of the game as far as Banished goes, although Banished does have mods which extend that out a bit. But with Villages, it does have free play as well, where you'll start up the map and create your city and stuff, but this one actually has its own campaign, and this faces yourself. Basically with the story, this is the wrong one. Yeah, this is definitely the wrong map. There is sort of an ongoing story. The idea is that how does this work? Load game, YetiHype. Okay, there we go. Basically, there's a story going on. The idea is that there is this woman in this tavern who is being told a story by a storyteller, and she's telling the story of your character, and you control a character who is basically a man or a woman who sets up a city, and then various events happen. Like at one point the city gets the plague, so you have to move on and set up a new story. It's pretty straightforward. There are different missions, and it's being told sort of as a story by someone about 100 years later or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but you'll figure it out for yourself really easily. So the first few missions are very tutorialized, and I think the game does a great job of tutorializing you without being too sort of hold your hand. And obviously everything is done here by this dialogue. I like the dialogue. It definitely adds some character to it. I'm not necessarily saying that Banished didn't have character, but this is probably the main thing that draws this game out against Banished, is the campaign, the missions, and the dialogue, and that sort of stuff. Is there any greater pleasure in life for a man building his own house? So this is the campaign. So you can, if you've played a city builder before, you can probably pretty easily understand what's going on here. If you go up here to the journal, this will show us our current quests and stuff. And I just realised I didn't save last night. This is about half an hour before I saved. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, currently we need to build a bridge, and that's pretty much as far as it goes. I will show you free play later on. I'd probably recommend playing the campaign beforehand, so we don't have enough stone for a bridge before you play the free play, because you will need to get at least a feel for the game. So as far as the interface goes, there's not really a ton to explain. You probably get the idea. You got your play pause at the top left, which we're going to go full so that we can get some more stone. Okay, so we are going to shorten this bridge, lengthen this bridge, and try and draw it out over here. So you can see you've got your map in the top left. Now the worlds aren't huge. They have this sort of map type thing, which is to sort of go along with the whole idea that this is a story being told, and therefore it's sort of the map and not like the world. I like it. It's a nice touch. Personally, for me, I'm not gonna lie, it sort of breaks the immersion a little bit over something like Banished, where you just have the world and you're building stuff in it, as opposed to this. You know, it's very obvious the constraints, I guess. Now, there's enough area for you to build in. I've not yet come close to the edge of it, although having said that, I have only put about 2 hours into this game. I don't know, I do like the touch. For me personally, it does break the immersion a little bit, although I could see why. You know, I do like it. I like that they've, you know, thought ahead and actually made the effort to not just go, oh, here's stuff, and they've explained that. So we're going to speed up to ×8 here, because we do want to get them working on this bridge. So you'll get various pop-ups here with the journal telling you to do stuff. As you can see, there's stuff I've done so far. Just in this mission is stuff I've done so far. Although hopefully I'll try and show you to the end of this mission, if possible, to show you what it looks like transitioning from one to the other. And then dialogue will come up on the top right. You'll get dialogue between people in your village, i.e. like the huntsman, your own character, and stuff like that will have dialogue. And that's how missions will come about. So the hunter will be like, hey, we have no food, we need to start doing some hunting. Except in a lot more character-filled way. It isn't just a case of we don't have food, we need to get food. They do tend to engage in like little bits of, you know, joking and sort of stuff like that, and the characters do build characters as well, which I quite like. And it'll vary between the characters in your village stalking and coming to modern day, the characters telling the story, having a conversation. So there is a bit of a variety in the dialogue, which is nice. As far as the game looks, I actually really like the game looks. It has some weird rendering issues. Not issues per se, just it's weird in the way it renders. So I'm currently playing on pretty much as max as it goes, and you can see over here, if you look along the river, as I go near it, the bushes sort of pop in. As far as I can tell, I don't really see there being a reason for that, unless, you know, you want to be on lower graphics. But if I am on, you know, the highest graphical settings, and I've had no problems running this, I don't see why that would be a reason to change that. As you can see, this is as high as it goes. This is not as high as it goes. My bad. Forget everything I said. I apparently just didn't know how to work the menus. That wasn't... Last night when I was playing with the menus, I couldn't get it to go higher. Completely scratched that. Never mind. The graphics are fine. Yeah, it runs smoothly. I've had absolutely no performance problems. It controls really well. You know, you can move the camera really freely. If you want, you can zoom in nice and closely. I mean, stuff like this is pretty straightforward for this sort of game. Camera control and all that sort of stuff. It keeps slowing itself down. I'm not entirely sure why it's doing that. So I'm clicking on the person. That's a fishing dock. Our bridge is very nearly done, and our bridge is done. Awesome. So this should progress our quest. Okay. So yeah, complete objectives. There'll be dialogue and stuff. There's a lot of reading. There is very small amount of voice acting, not with the dialogue, but if you go into free play, you'll notice some voice acting when, say, a merchant shows up. It'll go, a merchant has shown up at your village, so you know you're aware of what's going on. Gives me great pleasure to inform you that the sturdy stone bridge is now complete. I can walk over it without my scar tingling. Yeti, it's my goodness, it's... What's happening here? Wait, take a brief death and calm down. What's wrong? In our settlement, one of our labourers, he's got the plague. He's got a fever and strange spots on his skin. Just as I predicted, you've got to do something, Yeti, and fast. So Yeti, that's me, that's my character. I'm sort of in charge of the city, and like overseeing what's going on. And you're sure you're not mistaken, so we're just going to skip through this, and then obviously this is now the modern day. This is Urstel, Yeti, I'm sorry, and just like that, her settlement was no longer safe. This is the dude telling the story of Yeti and her various city adventures and stuff. So basically, to sum it up, Yeti gets the plague. This is the end of the mission, so we can replay it, or we can just hop over to the next mission, which is what we're going to be doing. Some of the story so far, she sets up her town, someone gets the plague, so we decide to move. However, we come to these mountains and realise that we will not be able to make it through the mountains through winter, so we decide to set up shop. And that's pretty much the premise of this next mission. We end up in this swampland, and yeah, we've got to build in this swampland because we're not going to make it through the mountains in winter. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to go ahead and skip through this. So most missions will start the same. You want to be starting off by building a town hall, which you can build resource free, because obviously you start out with no resources, so it wouldn't make a great deal of sense to be needing resources for that. So basically the dudes need you. You don't need to tell every dude individually what to do, but they do need you to tell them to gather resources. So here they're just going. I'm just going to tell them to gather all the trees. Apparently there are like no rocks in this area though. Oh no, there they are. I just couldn't see them because they were under the trees. And they'll just basically go to work there on that one. So let's go ahead and speed them up, tell them to do their jobs. I'm telling you, I'm tingling, my fingers are itching, I can barely stand it. Perhaps you should think about washing your gloves again. Rubbish, I'm talking about my urge to hunt. So, yeah, that's what I meant before. We're just going to skip through this as basically, because we have no food source right now. So, the dude is basically saying, hey, I need to hunt. But he didn't just go, hey, we need to hunt. There was a little bit of character-driven dialogue there, which is always nice in games like this. Because it's not necessarily... the games like this are boring by any stretch of the imagination. It's just there are a lot of city builders out there, and especially when comparing this to Banished. Banished pretty much did the job right. You know, you couldn't really, there wasn't really much more to be done to Banished to make it better. So I feel like adding the characters and adding the dialogue and just making more to it definitely, it didn't go amiss. You know, it definitely spices up the genre a bit, and I think adds to it a lot. So we're going to assign some hunters. You want to ideally get houses going, because similar to Banished, if you have houses, they will basically, couples will go in and then they'll mate in the houses. And then similarly, when it gets to night time, they'll just sleep outside the town hall, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why they sleep in the town hall, but yeah, they sleep outside the town hall and then they get cold and sometimes get ill and stuff. In the campaign so far, not as much of a problem, because it's more sort of do this, do this, do this. But in free play, that is something you want to be worrying about, because obviously you don't want your labourers and stuff to die, so you want to get your houses going earlier on. But this is a campaign, you get a general idea for what's going on here. So here it's basically saying that they keep drinking from the marsh water, so they're getting ill, so it wants us to drink to build a well. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to save over this, and then we're going to click to the main menu and show you what starting up a free play looks like. So we're going to go into a free play. Now right off the bat, you do get a little less options than you might expect from this sort of game, in that usually with this sort of game you get to choose your terrain, you'll get to choose the size of the terrain, and you'll also get to choose things like, you know, difficulty level, resource, and resources and all that sort of stuff, resource availability. With this one, you unfortunately don't really get that. You do get to choose the map, and it does go sort of in order of the campaign. You obviously start in a pretty regular map, then you go to the swampland, and then as you progress, you go to the mountains, the woods, and you progress your way through. We're going to go along the stream because that is a straightforward one. There are 8 maps to choose from, which I think is quite a nice selection. But as you can see, as soon as you click it, it does just throw you straight into it, as opposed to giving you any options of the size and stuff. And as you can see, the map is always the same. This is, as far as I can tell, as big as the map will get at any point, which I would like it to be bigger, but having said that, it'd take a lot of time to fill up this whole map. So what we're going to do right off the bat is we need to build ourselves a town hall. You want to position the town hall relatively near to your water source. Also, it should be noted that although there are 8 maps, there are literally 8 maps. There isn't any random generation to it. Every time you pick the riverside, the river's always going to be top left. So I think in that aspect, it does get a little bit limited, and that's probably the biggest downfall for the game for me, is just maybe the limit to replayability. There are 8 maps, and you can play the 8 maps, and you can easily sink like maybe 10 hours if you want to fully optimize your village and get everything built on each map. So don't get me wrong, that's probably more time than I'd ever spend with this sort of game anyway, but I don't know, the random generation is always fun, and I think having the same map every time does limit that for sure. So let's go ahead and get these dudes gathering everything sort of around the town hall. That should do it. Is there enough rock around? There's enough rock around. Okay. So yeah, this is basically, you want to build your town hall, and then right off the bat you want to get them gathering wood, and what we're going to do is try and build a food source for us. So once they've gathered a bit of wood, we'll get them building a food source by way of the hunting cabin, then we'll get them building the forester's lodge. The forester's lodge, basically they replant trees to chop down so you don't just run out of resources. Merchant fills in my village. Merchants are useless until later on when you get a warehouse, and then they can start trading and stuff. So we are going to get a hunting hide, and we're going to put it a little bit away from the village, so that we don't scare off animals from the hustle and bustle of the metropolis that is one building so far. So that's going to get built, and then obviously right after that we want to try and get a forester's lodge so that we can start replanting trees nice and early on.
The building is finished.
And then my pecking order, as far as I can tell, this is maybe not the 100% best way to do it, but I tend to get these going so we can get our production sort of sustainable, I guess you could say. And then I start building my houses because I don't want people dying of cold and shit, and I also want people to start reproducing before they get of an age where it would be weird. So this is usually the best pecking order for me. Also, wells are really good, wells and rain catchers, because actually in this map wells aren't that much of a bother, because say for example if you go to the marsh, they'll drink from the nearest water source, and if that nearest water source is a marsh, they'll drink from it and get ill. In this map it's not too much of a problem because it's a river, so it's clean water, but in other maps just know that you may want to be building wells or maybe even rain catchers as well. So there are things like a chapel and the guardhouse in particular that aren't necessarily useful right off the bat. You may want to focus your efforts into making houses for your villagers and stuff, although later on obviously you will want to be building guardhouses to protect your dudes, but for now, similarly things like taverns are more to keep your dudes happy and stuff. If you've played Banished, and I know I keep drawing the reference of Banished, but if you have played Banished, you're gonna understand villages, because I was very much like, okay, I want to do the campaign a bit before I do free play to get an idea of how it works, but honestly half an hour into the campaign I was a bit like, okay, I've played Banished, I get it, but I'd say the main difference between this and Banished is obviously the characters and the story and the campaign. So if you did like Banished and you want more of a campaign to it, this will definitely satisfy that, at least as far as I can tell. Although it works. It's a good game. There's no major issues. Although, like I said, the map size and also the replayability could be a problem if you want to sink a lot of time into it, which I know some people may be wanting to do. I know a lot of people liked the idea of making a massive village in Banished. I know Rataka did that. He's really good at Banished. So I don't know. For me personally, that's not the biggest issue in the world, but that was the biggest issue that I noticed. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of Villages. I would like to have shown you maybe a massive village, and maybe I'll come back to it later on down the line if people are genuinely interested. But this is what the game is. I sort of wanted to talk about it as much as possible, but at the same time, I don't want to dwell too much on it, because I feel like at this point, if you're into this sort of game, you already get the point, you already get the idea. So at this point, I feel like if I kept going on, then I wouldn't really be adding anything to anything. So yeah, this is Villages. Check out on Steam, the link in the description if you wanna do that. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. My name's been Yeti. If you feel like the video, a like would really help out the channel. Other than that, my name's been Yeti. I already said that. Thank you. It's been a while since I've recorded. Let's say the least. But thank you for watching. New Elder Scrolls discussion videos will be starting very soon. I'll be back to recording like normal. Basically, I'm recording this just because I had some time to do a little bit of recording, i.e. literally this video. So hopefully the Elder Scrolls discussion videos will be coming full and fast by next week at the very least. So that's it. Other than that, my name's Yeti. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. This has been Villages. Peace.